Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and we have several really good questions from inside the Red Raiders subscribers, so I'm going to dive right into them. Of course, this is previewing Texas Tech's upcoming Big 12 matchup at undefeated Iowa State. That's 2:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff there in Ames, and I believe the game will be televised on ESPN. But the first question comes from Cajun Raider, who said he had actually a long question. But he said, so what's the deal with Kittle? He seems to be great at designing plays, but seems to have zero feel for in-game management. And skipping along in his question, he says, it seems to me that Tech has a defense that could help Tech win with, dare I say it, a Kingsbury offense. So what's my take? Well, my take is I could not – and Cajun Raider's a great poster. I'm not just saying that's because I'm about to, totally disagree with him. He is. I love his takes. Very entertaining, intelligent, all that. But I completely disagree with this. Tech's defense is atrocious. It's dead last in Division I football and pass defense. I think since he posted that question in the mailbag thread, I posted a thread saying the secondary really is the center and the reason for a lot of Texas Tech's problems. If not all of them. Tech's offensive line isn't very good. Yes, the offense stalls out. You got to look at Kittle there as he's the offensive coordinator and ultimately responsible for it. But the defense is very bad this year. This is a Texas Tech defense that those of us who have followed Texas Tech for a long time are all too familiar with. It's funny you mentioned Kingsbury because it reminds me of Texas Tech's defense when they brought in David Gibbs as defensive coordinator. He ran off some guys with some bad habits, but probably the more talented guys on defense, started from scratch. And, that led to that whole Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes. That was part of several things. But that, first off, obviously Mayfield and Mahomes are great. But also Mike Stoops, I believe. Oklahoma's offensive coordinator stubbornly stayed in his regular defense, which Mahomes torched, and then Texas Tech's defense was just not even Division I caliber at all. Certainly not ready to stand up against Joe Mixon, who was also on that Oklahoma team, and some of the talented guys on that Oklahoma squad, which is how you ended up with the record-setting night. But anyways, I digress. No, the offense is top 20, top 25 in scoring, several metrics. I mean, you had a true freshman, Will Hammond, very talented. 4-star Elite 11 finalist. I do think he's a future, but he came in with almost zero experience and torched TCU for 17 quick points. Boom, boom, boom. 3 drives in a row. And the defense gave up really as much as the offense. In my opinion, you asked me for my take, that 17-point second-half lead against TCU just letting Josh Hoover bomb away. And you got to give TCU credit for that as well. But, to me, if you had just a middle-of-the-pack defense, especially secondary, then this team would be 7-1 instead of 5-3. So that's the way I see it. Panhandle Raider says, does Tech have a Kittle problem if they ever get to a point where Zach needed to be let go? No, I've said this, and I don't mind the question, but I've said this on several occasions. In what world, college football world, what universe, in the multiverse, or whatever you want to say, would a track coach, even a Hall of Fame track coach, Wes Kittle, great dude, had him on the radio show several times. Anytime I see him, I definitely go say hello and shake his hand. Very big-time track coach, but it's track. We're talking about what is college sports, if anything, or if nothing else, what's been shown to us is that it's just like almost everything else in the world. It's about money. I mean, that's where a lot of these changes in college athletics, why it's happening, why things are changing is because of money. So track, even a great track program like Texas Tech under Wes Kittle, they don't make money. And so there's not a lot of power there. So I just wonder, if you just think about it, in what universe would a track coach have any say on who the offensive coordinator is, even if it's his son? So, no, we won't have a Kittle problem. Tech Freak says, is the football program going in the right direction? Like Cody Campbell was saying, he tweeted out the last 2 weeks after the last two losses, basically the football program is going in the right direction. And I actually quoted and tweeted that I wholeheartedly agree, because I really do. And I completely understand why fans don't want to hear this. Well, first off, preseason expectations last year, you didn't, yes, you went to a bowl, you won that bowl. I think you ended up winning 7 or 8 games overall. So, solid season, but not anywhere close to what preseason expectations were, perpetuated by people like me in the media, but also by the head coach, Joey McGuire. So, it was a letdown overall last year, but a pretty solid season. This year, not near the preseason hype and all that, but you get off to a 5-1 start, then you drop 2 games against teams that not only in-state rivals, but teams that on paper you felt pretty good about, going against. So that's a letdown. People are upset right now. They want Texas Tech to take that next step. And here's the reason why I would say, yes, it is going the right direction. Recruiting and the roster is in good shape, though hadn't been perfect. As I mentioned, and going back and talking about the secondary, they needed some kind of buffer. And they definitely missed on some guys in terms of, depth and overall, like, ready to play this season in the secondary, because it hadn't shown up. So yes, that's a thing. But overall, the rosters. I've been covering Texas Tech, pouring over the roster, recruiting, all this stuff for over a decade now, and this is by far the best shape that Texas Tech's been in. They've done good in the transfer portal, even going back to Wells. Guys like Tyree Wilson, Muddy Waters, I could go on and on. They've done better in terms of in the transfer portal than I think most people maybe would have expected. Now, the 2 hits, or the main hit in terms of transfer portal recruiting, would be offensive line. You've either had injuries there or just things not work out. And that's really where – so, yes, Tech's on the right track, recruiting, roster management. First off, if they win another game, they'll be bowl eligible for a 4th consecutive season. That hadn't happened in a long time. But if Texas Tech's going to take that next step, win 8, 9, dare I say 10 games in a season, which Tech hadn't done a lot in the history of Red Raider football. But if they're going to do that, they're going to have to get better in the offensive line, And they've recruited high school guys that are, redshirt freshmen, starting to creep up into the 2D. So that is on the horizon. But to answer your question overall, yeah, facilities have been upgraded. Recruiting's in a better spot. A couple of top 25, top 30 high school recruiting classes to go along with those transfer portal classes. So the roster and the program is in very, very good shape. But also, you got to take that next step. You got to win, right? More than just become bowl eligible. I think the average Tech fan, and I completely understand this, and this is where I'm at in terms of covering the team, is like, it is good. It is an improvement that Texas Tech is. They posted winning records in the Big 12. First 2 seasons under Joey McGuire for the first time since 2009. So that's another achievement. But you got to play meaningful games in November. We've heard McGuire say that. I agree with that. You got to start becoming a factor in the conference race, especially with UT and OU gone. Which that was another accomplishment by McGuire. It was 2 seasons ago, but in 2022, you did beat Oklahoma and Texas in the same season for the first time ever. So you got them a little bit before they got out, even though UT got you back in 2023. But no, overall, it's going in the right direction. You got to take that next step. When is that going to happen? Doesn't look like it's going to be this season, but beating Iowa State would obviously help out a lot. But if it doesn't happen this season, it needs to happen next season, really, for everybody to feel like, okay, Tech's won 8 or 9 games. They're factoring in the Big 12 race. They're taking the necessary steps to elevate the program. Next question comes from Prosper, who said, who is making the decision to not lose instead of keeping the foot on the pedal and playing to win? That is Joey McGuire, the head coach. I've asked him, the coordinators, in press conferences, like who's making these decisions, and they kind of sidestep it, but it's clear that Joey McGuire, as it should be, as a head coach, is kind of saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that. He's definitely influencing some of those decisions. And look, Tech has been very good in close games up until that TCU game, and came back and bit them. But it's hard to argue with the results in terms of in close games. Again, coming off last week, I agree that the playing not to lose did come back and bite Texas Tech. But what's weird is that they did offensively, and in terms of going for it on that 4th and 3, and that's something McGuire said that he's kind of thought about a lot. But defensively, you kept rushing. You didn't drop 8 guys back, and you got burnt. So it's kind of like there's a lot of overthinking going on in terms of how to play. But I still go back. That's what makes me think that your deficiencies in the secondary right now is really hurting the whole team because you're overcompensating for it, not just on defense, but as a team. So, that's something that I don't know how it's going to be fixed this season, but moving forward. And they have young guys, young talented dudes coming up that are freshmen, very good 24 class, which was like 25th in the country and tops in the Big 12. And it was really good in the secondary. It's a good question. Tornado Watch says, which is more daunting, the more daunting task for opposing teams, playing in terms of playing in Ames, winning football or basketball? Like 5 years, well, not 5 years ago, but say 7 years ago, that would have been an easy basketball. Matt Campbell has elevated the program, and I think this was a big season, what they're having so far, at least what they're on track to have in terms of being undefeated right now going in this game against Tech. But it's been tough. Even before Matt Campbell, Iowa State wasn't just a gimme in Ames, as Red River fans know all too well. But, it wasn't a great program. Basketball has been good for a while, and the Hill is a very tough place to play. I think one of the more defining, impressive victories in Texas Tech athletics, recent Texas Tech athletics history, was Texas Tech going to Iowa State in the regular season finale the year they went to the national championship game and beating an Iowa State team that showed up ready to, they expected to win. They were at home. I think it was their senior day. And, they gave Texas Tech their best shot, and Tech was still able to win. They won the regular season, or at least a share of the regular season Big 12 title. And that was kind of like, wow, this team could really do things. Who knows in the tournament? But that was probably the most impressive, or one of the most impressive victories I can think of in recent Texas Tech sports history. So if I had to say, I would say basketball, but it's really tough, especially in November when it gets colder, to beat Iowa State on the gridiron there at Jack Trice Stadium. Engines 53 says, games played this year. I don't know where to look. Well, you can go to Texas Tech's, official athletic site, go to sports, football, go to season stats, and then you can click on participation, and it'll tell you how many games each player has played in. He says, but specifically, does Hammond have 2 more games to play and retain redshirt? Williams 1 or 2? Well, Williams has already played in period 5. If you go, just like I said, go navigate towards Texas Tech's athletic and their season stats and participation, it'll tell you he's already played in 5. So he's already burnt his shirt, Jacoby Williams, which is fine because they need him. Basically, and I asked Coach McGuire when it happened, but when Cameron Valdez went down, that was it. They were already wanting to play Jacoby Williams. He had such a tremendous fall camp. He adds an element. He's such a good complement to Taj, who's more of like a battering ram kind of dude, to Jacoby Williams, who's a one-cut, quick burst, big play waiting to happen. So Jacoby, as soon as Cameron went down for the season, he wasn't going to redshirt. Now, in terms of Hammond, yeah, he can play in two of the 4 regular season games, and then any postseason game Tech would have, and still be able to redshirt. So, I think it's all going to depend on if Baron Morton's healthy. I did ask McGuire, say, hey, if all things being equal, if Baron's healthy, is he still the starter? He said yes. So they'd like to retain his red shirt, but if Baron goes down, then Wilhelm will have to play. That's just the bottom line. Raider Fan 01 says, receivers have been getting behind our secondary all year. What's going on? Coaches coaching, talent, speed, defensive scheme. Ironically, I don't know if it's speed. It's football speed for sure because they get burnt. But yeah, all the above. I mean, that thread I posted, and it was something I felt strongly about. I didn't even do a story. I just wanted to start a conversation and talk with y'all. I don't know, it's like 3 or 4 pages long. And I understand that somebody might disagree with me, but I really feel like the main problem with Texas Tech this year is, and the offensive line is still a weakness. It's average at best, but is the secondary and how the whole team's had to kind of overcompensate, whether it be linebackers trying to help out in coverage, in terms of the rush, which isn't great. I mean, you lost 2 of your best outside linebackers before the season even kicked off. Had a lot of injuries at the pass rushing positions, but even with that, I mean, your guys can't cover for long enough for your pass rush to get home. So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg. Is the pass rush bad, hurting the secondary, or the secondary hurting the pass rush? I think it's the secondary cannot cover. Going back to ACU, they torched you. I mean, there's been talk about communication problems. I asked defensive coordinator Tim DeRuiter to explain how the communications relayed, and it was pretty complicated. You'd think that'd be a simple 30-second tops answer, and he talked for like 2. It was one of his longer answers, and it was complicated. So that kind of told me something there. You have to look at, they have good coaches. Marcel Yates is he's the secondary coach. He is considered a very good coach with a very good track record. But you have some guys who, it's not just youth in the secondary, some older guys who, like Amarian Horn. I mean, I feel like he should be better in covers than he is. Former 4-star recruit, Under Armour All-American, speed to burn, but he's not very good in coverage. He's pretty good in run support. He'll throw his body in there. But so there's not a lot of size, and the speed isn't showing up on the field, even though there's good track speed. And you can't say there's been great development. Braylon Luck, a couple of transfers are playing okay for you. Braylon Lux is solid at corner, but he's been hurt a lot. He's missed some games. CJ Baskerville has kind of been up and down. He struggled some in coverage. I thought he was really bad against ACU, but he's made some incredible interceptions. And that's the one thing you could say for the secondary and the defense overall is they have produced turnovers, which is a big deal. I mean, it is. But you're also 133rd, as McGuire pointed out to me in the press conference when I asked him about the poor coverage. He said 133rd in the country, last in the country in pass defense. And I think it's because of the secondary, and I think it's for all the reasons. When you have the worst pass defense in the country, it's not 1 or 2 things. It's a confluence of several things. So they have their work cut out for them. I don't know what's to be done this season about it, except for to keep on overcompensating, try and mask it. But you're not fooling these opposing Big 12 coaches. They're going to go after you. And, do you sit back with 8 in covers? Do you, send 1 or 2 extra guys, to try and get home? How do you, help that secondary so that you could win ball games? Because you have some really solid pieces on your team. That's why they pay those coaches the big bucks. And they're going to have to do better against Iowa State, who obviously they have a good defense, but their offense is very balanced. Rocco Beck's a good quarterback. They have a stable, good running backs. They're going to hit you with that 12, 13 personnel at a time and try and do some things with their tight ends. So it doesn't get any easier. You got Colorado coming in, Oklahoma State, and then West Virginia to wrap up the season. All those good coaching staffs with good, solid Power 4 personnel. So they're going to be tested. And like I said, I think it's a number of factors contributing to the poor performance in pass defense. But that's going to do it. I know it's been kind of a Debbie Downer mailbag, but that's what happens when you lose 2 straight against in-state rivals, especially when you blow a 17-point lead in the second half. But maybe if it would be the most typical Tech thing to do to go beat this undefeated Iowa State team after dropping these 2 disappointing games. But Tech's heavy underdogs, so we'll have to see and see how the rest of the season plays out. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.